Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today we're up here on my favorite windy mountain road test driving the 2017 Volkswagen GTI. This is an S model, a plain Jane base model without all the options on it. So I'm pretty excited about that, but I'm also pretty excited about seeing how this thing handles up here because having been an owner of a first generation GTI, I remember what the joy and the thrill was like back in the day. And so I really want to see if this thing lives up to it. All right, my friends, full disclosure here before we get too far down the road with this test drive. I'm a Volkswagen nut, okay? I'm a Volkswagen owner. I own one now. I've owned countless Volkswagens. I had a first generation GTI, so these are cars that I know very well, but I also have an affinity for them. So just want to make sure you all know that before we get too far into the test drive. It's not that I'm not going to be balanced here. There are some things I'll probably pick on with the car, but know that I'm a Volkswagen guy through and through. So it's kind of home for me here. Now, styling here before we get out on the test drive, this has a unique set of details starting with this grille. Honeycomb grille has a red accent strip down there, something that dates back to the original GTI that I owned in 1984. And down here in the lower fascia, this car has LED fog lights down there, being the S model. Through these 18-inch alloys this has, you see this has the smaller of the two brake sets on this car. If you get the performance package on the sport trim grade and up, larger brakes than this. Even here though, we still have the red calipers, 18-inch alloy wheels here, one of the several different alloys that you can get on the GTI. Coming down the side of the GTI, you can see down here on the lower rocker, there's a nice little air splitter down there, very subtle piece, nothing big and crazy. And that continues into the lower fascia back here where you've got a little bit of a repeat of that mesh grille from up front, that honeycomb design. But most importantly, you've got the dual exhaust pipes back there, and those are the real deal too, not fake trim pieces with little tiny pipes in the middle. Those are the real deal. You can actually see the soot on them. Up here, you've got an integrated spoiler, and this back end really just has a nice, tidy, upright look that's really been with the GTI since the first generation. Here inside the GTI, the base interior here in the S is quite an elevated step up from that of the standard Golf S that you might find. And that starts with the trims and the materials that you see in here. Here on the dash, you have sort of a carbon fiber look trim instead of the standard piano black, which I like a lot better because it doesn't show the dirt and it just has a much more handsome premium look. You've also got a steering wheel here that's a very nice stitched steering wheel that says GTI on it with a flat bottom, sort of a D-shaped steering wheel. And here with the DSG in this car, it does have paddle shifters on it. You've got 2-dial instrument cluster with a center screen that has all the information, trip computer, things like that you might need. And it's just a classic design that goes all the way down to the Golf and all the way up here. Also, because we're in the base model here, it's actually got a real twist key instead of the push button start down here on the console. Another button that's down here on the console, drive mode. Don't find that in all the Golfs. Here in the GTI, that does a number of things we'll get to here when we get into the test drive. The other big thing is the seats. These are the GTI Sport seats here with the Clark plaid cloth. Now, when I first saw this years and years and years ago when they first started putting this in North American GTIs, I didn't care for it so much. Though back in the 80s, I thought that the weird velour stuff they put in my GTI was okay. But I've really come to like this cloth because not only are they heated seats, but they really hold you tight, especially if you're out there really canyon carving. The leather tends to be a little bit more slippery, and I just like the look of them. They're comfortable too. Now these seats, because these are the base seats, they're manually adjustable for front to rear and some of the other adjustments. There is a power recline, oddly enough, though. But if you get into the higher trim levels, then you can look into some power seats there. When it comes to storage, there's actually quite a bit here. There's a cubby right down here that's actually large enough for most phones. I have a pretty good sized phone and it's got a case. Fits in there, and there's still room for sunglasses in there next to it. There's an auxiliary port and a USB port down there to plug your phone in and charge it, though that USB port, the way it's designed, it really takes some work to actually use. Down here, cup holders. Now this console, I like the way it's designed because of where the cup holders are. They don't interfere with the shifter or getting into that cubby for your phone. Storage down here in the center console, not all that big, but there is a power port down there. It's big enough for most of your little things like sunglasses, candy, anything like that. The rear seat of the Golf and the GTI I've always found to be a pretty comfortable place to be because even though this does have a somewhat low seating position like a lot of cars in this class, These seats are very well shaped and bolstered. You've got a lot of support from the side, so you don't feel like you're sitting on this flat bench, and also with your legs perched up. Now, when it comes to legroom, these seats are about halfway forward, halfway back, set for my height, which is 5'9", and I've got plenty of space here, as you can see. So these seats could even come back just a little bit, and there would be room for a little bit of play here given that legroom. Headroom also very good, and I've got vents back here, which is something I always look for here in Arizona when it gets hot in the summer, and not everyone in class has that. Now, one thing I've discovered in life is it's very good to be versatile, if you know what I'm saying, and this is versatile to say the least. Not only do you have a fold down armrest back here, but there's also a pass-through right here. You can fold this down, and that actually lets you put long things through here. Also, you can fold these seats down in a 60-40 split, which you would expect in a vehicle like this, but that really does afford you a nice big cargo space back there. That it's just kind of a nice thing to have that versatility in a car like this. It's also fun to drive. And under that floor back there is a spare tire, a great thing because a lot of cars in this class lose that spare tire when you get into high performance. A lot of times it's wheel sizes, brakes, or just they want to save weight or money. It's nice to have a spare tire because you never know when you're going to need it. And lastly, the materials in here are actually of a very high quality. And again, that goes all the way down to the base level Golf, all the way up to the top. The rubber here on the dash, a very nice high quality material which goes along on the door panel. There are a few hard plastics here and there, but they don't put them right in your face, and they look and feel good even though they are hard plastics. Very impressed with this interior for a lot of good reasons. 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is a 6-inch touchscreen that has a lot of feature content. It does not have nav, but it does have a lot of other connectivity options, as well as a great touchscreen with a lot of the swipe capabilities and same features you find in their top-end systems here. Even though this isn't the top-end Fender audio system, it sounds very good. It's got 8 speakers. I didn't really have any complaints about it for a bass system whatsoever. The menus are easy to use, the graphics are very good, visibility is good. It's just a nice system to live with, especially being that it's a bass system. So infotainment gets 5 out of 5 stars. Under the hood of the GTI is the 2-liter turbocharged direct injected engine here with 210 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Now if you step up a trim grade and get into the Sport and above, you're going to actually have 220 horsepower there because those all come with the performance package, just a slight little bump in power. But even at 210, in this car, it's rated at 24 mpg city, 32 mpg highway, and 27 mpg combined. Now, I always start these things out by asking the question, how does it go? Woo! Nice sound. Nice little kick, too. Woo! And I'm speeding, of course. Way, way, way over the speed limit. So I'm not telling you where I'm at or what the speed limit is. Let's just say I'm over it. Okay, so 210 horsepower, not the most in class. Even at 220, probably not a big difference in how it's going to feel, but it's enough power to make the car fun to drive. It's fun to drive. It's a nice little, it's fun to drive, especially around town, not to mention out here on the open road. And these paddle shifters, they work pretty good. This is the kind of transmission paddle shifters were made for, not those slushy automatics that a lot of cars have them with. This is a robotic manual, a DSG. That's what paddle shifters were originally made for, and they work as such. So if you must have an automatic, good way to go here. I will say that around town, not as fun as it is here on the open road. This DSG hangs up a lot, taking off from a stop, not as refined as I'd like. Around town, I'd actually prefer an automatic if I'm honest, but out here on the open road, it really does work pretty good. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I would say. I just go for the manual. This is the kind of car that, to me, a manual goes in. Now, fuel economy, well, I've been driving it, okay? You can see that. So fuel economy didn't quite come out as good as, well, it could have. Not 27, I got 24 for the week, and in fairness though, that was mostly city driving, so I'll give you that. Overall though, this is a nice powertrain, not as powerful as some in class like the Ford Focus ST, not up in the mid-2s, but what they've done here is they've got a nice refined powertrain that behaves well. It's befitting of the GTI, it's befitting of the German brand. Therefore, powertrain really isn't judged solely on power, but refinement as well. So powertrain comes in at 4 out of 5 stars. Oh, and did I mention this DSG actually does a wonderful job of holding your gear as you're going in and out of corners. Isn't that nice? Not trying to upshift on you just cause. Anyway, so yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for Powertrain. Now, handling, well, that's what we're talking about now, because, well, this thing handles. It's a GTI, it ought to. My first GTI, I used to corner on 3 wheels. That car was predictable and grippy even on 3 wheels. Now these, not so much anymore. They don't really do that as much. But is it as satisfying to drive? Hell yes. This thing grips, it's refined, the suspension's nice and stiff, but not so stiff that it beats you to death. I will say that, now, some of the interior trims rattle and I get some vibration in here. That's not really the suspension or the chassis' fault, that's the interior trim's fault. But when it comes to throwing this thing into a curve, it's every bit as tossable, every bit as enjoyable as the original. Now, we have drive modes here. Didn't have that in my original GTI. The drive modes actually change up the engine, the transmission in this case, and the steering feel. Now on normal, it's a nice buttery light steering. It gets a little bit stiffer when you put it on sport, but not so stiff that it feels artificial. The best thing I think they've done here is they've really kept this car to its roots. It hasn't gotten crazy like BMW, that instead of being the ultimate driving machine is now the ultimate PlayStation, in my opinion. This is a car that's every bit as pure as it was back in the first generation. And, you know, a lot of people believe that 4th, 5th generation, not so good. I tend to agree with that. GTI has definitely gotten it back. It's sharp, it's precise, it's fun, it's light, and it's eager to please. Therefore, chassis gets 5 out of 5 stars. Woo! I could do this all freaking day, man. Woo! On the measure of quality, it's something I'm really nuts about. I am OCD about things like body panel fit and alignment, material quality, and most important, rattles. When I put a rattle in my car, I'm gonna kill it before it kills me. And this has got some rattles in the interior. We talked about that when we were driving and handling, and it really does drive me nuts when not only they're there, but I can't find them and kill them. And so that does affect the quality score here on this car. Everything else is fine. Body panel fit and alignment, finish, paint, material quality excellent, but those rattles, man, quality comes in at 4 out of 5 stars. Safety is a very important topic to me. I like to talk about it, even though it isn't something that I use as part of my rating in the test drives. As you can see here, good in all the crash tests by the IIHS, and that makes it a top safety pick. Now, it's not a top safety pick plus, and that's because they now rate headlights as part of the deal for top safety pick plus, and the headlights on this, bad. They scored terribly on their tests. So it's a very safe car to crash in, just not necessarily to drive at night in. All right, my friends, wrapping it up for the GTI. I love it. I love it. It's absolutely everything that the original was, plus 2 to 3 times more car, obviously. We're 30 plus years removed. It ought to be. Therefore, it goes on my I buy it list for 2017. Should be no surprise. I already told you I'm a Volkswagen guy. Hard to find one that I don't like. But what I do like here is this trim grade, $27,000 and some change. Very well equipped. I like the cloth seats. And even though there's more performance to be had going up a step or two, this is a great place to start. And this is with the DSG. If you get the manual, which I would do, a little bit less money, right around 26 and some change. Therefore, I think it's a great value, which I put at 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're 4.5 stars for the review. Pretty good. I'm Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Woo! Oh, I could do this all day. Anyway, folks, if you like the test drive you just saw, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the big round logo right there, that big black one, or click on the square, see our latest test drive. Either way, stay tuned.